Okay, so let me share my screen with you all again. Okay, so hopefully you can see it now. So lesson 3 is going to go through using Office Backstage. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so what we're going to go through this lesson is we're going to look into the print area. We're going to look into parts of the workbook, print scaling, modifying the page setup, customizing our quick access toolbar and our customize ribbon. And we're going to look into creating a workbook as well. So let's go ahead with that. So like I mentioned previously, the Backstage view is a visual interface that enables you to use and master Excel's file management features. So Backstage left side navigation pane. So what you can see here gives you access to the workbook and the file related commands through a series of tabs. So each tab provides related options and settings to help you manage your Excel workbook files. So if you click on the file tab on the upper left corner of the Excel window, you can access the Backstage view. So like how I just did here. So to access it, simply just click on this file tab and the Backstage view will show up. To return to your workbook from the Backstage view, you can simply just click on the return button on the upper left corner or press escape. That will take you back to your workbook. So like I mentioned, you have your tabs here. You can close your workbook from this tab option here as well. Here you have all your recently opened workbooks. So printing with Backstage. So Backstage contains Excel's print commands and options. So you can use the print settings to manipulate the workbook margins, orientation, paper size, and so on. So to do so, you need to click on the print tab and you will get presented with the available print options. So many of these commands are also available from the page layout tab on the ribbon as well. So if you go on the page layout tab, they are also available here as well. You can use the print options in the Backstage view to only print a selected portion or so if I go back to it, or print area of an Excel workbook. So there's a lot of customizability in the way that you can print your workbook. Okay, so let's have a look at the printing side of things. So if we open O3 Contoso Potluck, so again, open, browse. So lesson 3, Contoso Potluck. So this one here. Okay, so we should see something like this. So if we select, say, cell A3 and hold down and drag it all the way down to cell A13, and then if we go back on the File tab and click on Print, you should see here that now displays what we have highlighted on the print page. So this is what we can print out. So under Settings, the first button labeled the Print Active Sheet. Here we have some options here. So here are all the customizations that we can do when it comes to printing our worksheet. So here, if you select this one, so right now we're printing the active sheet. So the current one that we're on, we can either opt to choose and select and print the entire workbook or print a selection. So if we select the one that says print a selection, it will only print out the cells that we highlighted. Again, if we select this one, it's going to print out the entire workbook. So if it's more than one worksheet, it will print all of it. And here we'll print the current sheet that we are on. Again, so if you add an additional sheet to this, so it has two sheets now. If we go back onto print, so if we actually also input some data into, now in order to print, you can either access it through Backstage view, so clicking on a file and going to Backstage, or you can click on Control P, and that will also go to the print tab of the Backstage view as well. Okay. So we previously added two sheets. So if we select the print entire workbook, now it's going to print out both of those sheets for us. Okay. Here you have also some other settings. So printing on one side, printing on both sides. When it comes to printing it, you can also change your page orientation to either portrait or landscape. You can change the size of it. You can set your margins to if you want it to be normal or wide. And you can also change the scaling options as well. So sometimes you might have, a lot of data that doesn't fill essentially on one page on one worksheet. So if you have like loads of columns of data and you want all of them to fit on one page, then you need to add some scaling, which is essentially going to fit all of those columns and rows into one page so that it doesn't overlap or go to a different page. Again, this can be done through the scaling options here. So fit sheet on one page, fit all columns on one page, fit all rows on one page. So depending on which one you want to pick, there's lots of options that you can choose from. So if you select the fit on one page, it fits everything that is on the worksheet on one page. If you select the fit all columns on one page, it will only fit all the extra columns. The same thing with the rows as well. You can also do additional customizations when it comes to printing. So for example, say you might want to add the grid lines to your printed worksheet. So you can click on where it says page setup all the way at the bottom here. And you'll get presented with a dialog box, which is going to give you some additional options for customization when it comes to printing. So page, setting it again to portrait a landscape, margins, setting your margins, customizing that, setting a header or footer, and there's also some other print options. So for example, if you want to add grid lines to it, so right now our worksheet that's going to be printed out would look like this, but if we add grid lines and click OK, then it's going to add us some grid lines for us, which might be handy for when it comes to, for example, annotating this piece of paper ourselves. So Backstage also offers a number of commands and options for changing elements of the Excel work environment, such as the ribbon that I mentioned previously and the quick access toolbar. So you can also customize this ribbon and this quick access toolbar. So let's have a look at actually customizing those things. So let's first customize our quick access toolbar. So to do so, we need to go to Backstage Views by clicking on the File tab. We click on Options here, and from the left side of the tabs that we have here, we want to click on and customize our quick access toolbar. So this is going to enable us to access it. So right now, as you can see here at the top, we have save, undo, and redo options. So if we want to add some additional things to those, so for example, cut, we can simply click on that command that we want to add. So select that command, and then where it says add, we click add, and that's going to get added now to our quick access toolbar. And if we click OK, you will see that this will get updated. Okay, so the cut command will also appear in there as well. So now you can see the cut command is now visible in there as well. Again, we can go back to it. Click on quick access toolbar, and if we want to add additional stuff again, we can add into there as well. Simply just add them in there. whatever you want to use. To reset this, we can simply click on where it says customization, click on reset, and reset either for only quick access toolbar or reset all the customizations we've done. So if we click on reset, it's going to ask us, are you sure you want to reset it? Yes. And if we just click OK, it's going to get rid of it and resets our quick access toolbar. Now we can also customize our ribbon. So again, if we go back to options, instead of clicking on a quick access toolbar, we can simply click where it says customize ribbon here, and we can customize our ribbon. So as you can see here, we have various tabs such as home, insert, page layout, formulas, and other stuff. So we can actually customize this ribbon and add our own tab, which is quite interesting. So for example, to do this, we need to click where it says new tab, and it's going to create a new tab for us. Okay. We then click on this new tab and we can just rename it whatever we want. So rename it to okay. And now in order to add some commands into this tab that we just created, so we first select where it says new group, and then so it's really up to us what you want to add. So any commands that you want to add from here, so for example, fill color, font color, font size, that you can also add anything from here. You can also so for right now, what we're seeing here are all the popular commands. So if you want to view all the commands, you can simply click on this drop-down option and select where it says all commands, and it's going to present you with all of the commands available. Again, if you want to look at, file tab commands, main tab commands, so anything you really want. And then once you've added those commands to your custom tab, you can simply click OK. And so if you pay attention to this part here, so we have home, insert, page layout, and formulas. Okay, so if you pay attention here, our new tab that we've just created is essentially going to get added to the to our ribbon. So if we click OK, you notice that the tab that we just created and called custom has now appeared with all those commands that we've added to that custom tab also visible here as well. So this is essentially, apart from the default tabs that are given to us by Excel, we've just essentially created our own custom tab, which can be useful when it comes to if you're using some certain commands on a regular basis, and it just saves you time having to do steps, and you have quick access to everything. So again, to undo this, you can go back on options, click where it says customize ribbon, and you can reset it again. So reset all customization. Are you sure? Yes. And click OK. And it's going to get rid of that tab for us as well. So we've covered how to customize the quick access toolbar, the ribbon, and I think that should be it for this lesson. Yeah, that is it for that lesson. So that was a really quick lesson on how to customize your quick access toolbar, customize the ribbon, and the printer settings as well. So does anyone have any questions so far? Guys, if you have any questions, just feel free to ask. Okay then, so let's move on to our final lesson for today, so lesson 4. So it's going to start getting a bit more advanced. So lesson 4 is gonna, actually before I go to lesson 4, so I just want to mention again, guys, please make sure that you do all of these exercises for all of these lessons as well. So there'll be walk through steps on how to essentially do what I just did yourself. So you know, customizing the ribbon, customizing the quick access toolbar. So please ensure that you do all these things because, practicing it is, more effective than me just showing you how to do it. Okay, so moving on to lesson 4. So lesson 4, as I mentioned, is going to get a bit more advanced, but I'm not too advanced. So lesson 4 is going to be using basic formulas, okay? So we're going to look into understanding and displaying formulas. We're going to use something called cell referencing, and we're going to use external cell referencing as well. So Excel. So if we look at this formula tab here, this is what we're going to be, using through most of this lesson. So Excel enables you to create formulas simply by typing in a cell or using your mouse pointer to select a cell to include in a formula. You can create basic formulas for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division using these methods. So in this lesson, you have a few command groups on the formula tab to display formulas and name ranges to be used in formulas. Okay, so here we have various groups of types of formulas that we can use. So logical formulas, maths and trig formulas, financial formulas. So understanding and displaying formulas. So the real strength of Excel is its capability to perform common and complex calculations. The formula is one of the essential elements of Excel. When you enter a formula in a cell, the formula is stored internally and the results are displayed in the cell. You can view the underlying formula in the formula bar. So you can view the actual formula in the formula bar. It only displays a result here. You can actually view the entire formula in the formula bar when the cell is active or when you double click on the cell to edit it. So let's enter in a formula. And it's important to note that whenever you enter a formula, it always has to start with equals. So for example, if we enter a simple calculation into here. So for example, if I do 7 plus 8.
Jason, there's a question.
Yes.
When we are looking at some of the formulas, for example, for financial or logical or whichever we are using, so are we supposed to remember, from the employment or exam perspective, are we supposed to memorize the formulas or can we use the formulas the way they are available on the Excel?
So no, you don't need to memorize these
Yeah.
formulas. So you can
Okay.
essentially all these formulas are available for you to
Yeah,
import from here.
they're already what you call is a prefabricated. All I want to
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
for example, for
exactly.
the
Yeah.
financial this thing, I was looking at some of the formulas like the depreciation, things like that. And so that's what my question was, that do we have to remember it, or it is just we can straightway use the prefabricated formula on the basis of the information we have?
No, you can just essentially use all the
Thank
available
you.
formulas given to you by Excel. It has a bunch of formulas here that
Yeah,
you can use for any context that you want to
sure. Thank you.
apply it to. No
Thanks.
worries. So yeah, so like I was saying before, so let's enter in a simple um, calculation into here. So 3 divided by 2 minus 4. Now, if I click enter right now, this will not calculate this formula for me. If I click enter, it's not going to do anything. Why? Because I've missed out the equals at the front of this formula. So it's always important to add your equals. Now, once we click enter, it's going to calculate the results of that formula for us. So 15 in this case, okay? And like I mentioned previously, you will not be able to see the formula in this cell now. Only will only be visible in this formula bar up here. So you can see 7 plus 8 times 3 divided by 2 minus 4. Okay. However, if we double click on this cell and make that cell active, it will display the formula for us in here as well. So a formula is an equation that performs calculations on values in a worksheet. In Excel, a value can be a number, a cell address, a date, text, Boolean, data, or is usually a number or cell addresses in terms of formulas. So a formula consists of two elements. So operands, so this identify values to be used in the calculation. So you have constants number or text value that is entered directly into the formula, and you have variables, so symbols or names that can represent something like a range of cells and so on. So calculation operators specify the calculations to be performed to allow Excel to distinguish formulas from data, like I previously mentioned. All formulas begin with a equal sign. So Excel uses 4 types of calculation operators, so arithmetic, comparison, text concatenation, and reference. So here we have the list of the arithmetic operators. So we have addition, minus, multiplication, division, percentage, and exponentiation as well. So these are the symbols that you would use if you were going to use any of those. So when you build a formula, it appears in the formula bar and in the cell itself. So when you complete the formula and press enter, the value will display in the cell and the formula will display in the formula bar. So when it comes to Excel, like maths in general, it's important to understand the order of operations. If you make more than one operator in a formula, Excel follows a specific order called the order of operations to calculate that formula. So this is why parentheses play an important role in controlling the order of operations. So if we have a look at this example here, so if I click enter, we get 15, okay? However, if we start entering parentheses into this formula, let's see if we get a different result, okay? So let's enter parentheses around the 7 and 8. And let's enter parentheses around the 3 divided by 2. And let's enter some parentheses around those two that we just put parentheses around. Okay. So previously, our answer was 15 when we clicked enter on this formula. But now that we've entered a parentheses into the formula, it's going to change the order of operations. Okay. So if we click enter now, so previously we had 15. If we click enter now, it's going to give us a different result. So we've changed the order of operations. So it's going to give us 18.5 now as the new value. So Excel applies the rules of mathematics to determine how formulas are calculated. So the following is the order of in which arithmetic operators are applied. So negative numbers first, then percentages, then exponentiation, then multiplication and division from left to right, and then addition and subtraction from left to right as well. So this is very important, this part here. So this is the arithmetic order of which operators are applied. So negative numbers, like I mentioned, then percentages, then come exponentiation, then multiplication and division from left to right, and then finally addition and subtraction. So moving on, so using cell references in formulas. So when you create a formula, you can reference a cell's identifier rather than typing the number that appears in the cell. So a cell reference identifies a cell's location in the worksheet based on its column letters and row numbers. So using a cell reference gives you more flexibility in your worksheet. So if the data in that cell changes, any formulas that reference that cell also update as well. So this essentially makes your worksheet more from moving from static to dynamic, because essentially as you update certain values in cells, those formulas and calculations will also be updated as well. So let's have a look at this. So if we open up O4 budget cell references, O4 budget cell references here, you should see something like this. So if we select cell, let me just zoom in a bit. So if we select cell B3, sorry, you see that it has 1,200 in there. If we go all the way down to cell B18, so B18 is a sum of 1,200 plus 500 minus 100. However, this is very static. That means that we have to, change essentially this formula every time we want to update it. So instead of doing that, we can simply click in this formula bar here, select where it says 1200, and say, for example, we want to replace this 1200 with the value in cell B3. So we select cell B3, and if you notice here, now it says equals B3 plus 500 minus 1000. And if we click enter now, it's still going to say 1600, but every time we update this cell, so if we change it from 1200 to 2000, pay attention to here as well, it will update our cell for us. So where it says 1600. So simply just making a cell reference in our formula to B3, whenever we update this cell, the formula and the calculation in cell B18 also gets updated as well, which makes our formula dynamic. So next, moving on to something called absolute cell referencing. So if we select now, if we select B18, right, and cell referencing, absolute cell referencing is where you can essentially, yeah. So let me actually show you this easier. So if we select B18 now, so click on the formula bar and see where it says B3. Here we can use something called cell referencing. So sometimes you do not want to a cell reference to change when you move or copy it. So to make this cell, to make an absolute cell reference, we use the $ before the column and row. So let's have a look at doing this. So where it says B3, we want to enter a $ before the B and a $ before the 3. Okay. And if we click enter, it's still going to give us the same result. Okay. However, if we copy cell B18 now, if we Control C and copy it to, for example, B21, it still displays the same result, okay? However, if we didn't implement cell referencing, mentioned here, so if we get rid of those $signs, so it still says 2,400, but if we were to copy this now, below, now, instead of saying 2,400, it's changed the value. It no longer says that value. It gives us 400, okay? And why is that? Is because that essentially, because we've shifted and copied this cell down a few cells down further down, it also no longer makes a reference to cell B3. Instead, if we click in cell B21 and if we select on the formula bar, it's no longer making a reference to B3. Because we shifted that cell down, it's also shifted cell B3 to cell B6. So that's why it's important if you're making references to certain formulas elsewhere to implement absolute cell referencing, so that when you copy a formula somewhere else, it doesn't shift the cell that you specified here. So for example, again, I'm going to demonstrate it to you again. So B3, again, $ before the B and before the 3, click enter, 2,400. Again, if we're going to copy this anywhere, we can copy this anywhere really, and it's always going to give us 2,400 because it does not shift this B3 value because we made it an absolute cell reference. So it always stays on that cell and it always makes a reference to that cell. Does that make sense so far? Does the absolute cell referencing make sense? Hopefully, if you have any questions, just let me know. Okay, great. So you can also use external cell references. So you can also refer to cells in another worksheet in the same workbook or to another workbook entirely. Okay, so references to cells or ranges located in a separate workbook or to an identified name in another workbook are considered external references. So Unless you specify another worksheet or workbook, Excel assumes your cell references are to cells in the current worksheet, okay? So let's have a look at this. So if I just zoom out. So if you notice here, this workbook that we've opened currently has two worksheets. It has expense details and summary, okay? Now, if we click on cell D8, if we look at D8, which is average per month for electricity. Okay, so here we want to calculate the average payment for electricity. So we want the average payment for electricity to appear um, similar to the content that appears in B20. Okay, so of this expense detail. So if we look where it says electricity here, electricity. So the total here would be N8. So cell would be N8 and it's 2,110. Okay. So in order to do this, we need to reference the expense details worksheet. So how do we do this? So if we select D8 again and simply type in equal sum, so we're going to use the sum formula. Okay. Now we want to make a reference to the expense details worksheet. Okay. Now you can either type this in or you can actually click on this expense details worksheet here. So if you pay attention to this formula bar up here, so right now it says equal sum and parentheses open. So we want to retrieve cell information from the expense details worksheet. So simply click on that. And now if you pay attention to this formula bar, our formula is equal sum and it provides the reference for the expense details worksheet. Okay. Now for the electricity, the total was in cell N8. So if we click N8, okay, and simply to calculate the monthly average, simply after selecting the total of it, we can just do simply close the parentheses and divide that average, that total value by 12 to work out the monthly average, okay? And then if we click enter, it's going to give us the average per month for electricity, making reference to this cell. Now, if you pay attention here, whenever we change any information in this cell here from, for example, from 2,110 to 600, enter, it will also update it here as well, okay? So that's how you would make a reference to a cell in a different worksheet, but in the same workbook, okay? So we can also refer to data in another workbook entirely. So let's have a look at doing that as well. So let's look into opening O4 budget 2016, O4 budget 2016, okay, which is this one here. So right now I have two different workbooks open, okay, so let me just close this. So right now I have this workbook open and this one open as well. So we have two workbooks open at the same time, okay. So if we go on this summary sheet again of this workbook here, and if we select cell, let's do cell C3, okay, so cell C3, and here, simply to make a reference, so here what we're going to do is make a reference to a different workbook, okay, so we're going to make reference to cells in this workbook, okay, so to do this, you do equal, we don't use sum, we're simply making a reference to that cell, so equal, and then a parenthesis open, then square brackets open, and here we want to specify the name of this workbook here. So this workbook that we're making a reference to is called O4 Budget 2016. So here we type in O4 Budget O4 Budget 2016. 2016, yep. And then you want to specify also the file extension, which is going to be .xlsx. And then you want to close the square brackets. And here, if we move this, so for example, we say we want to retrieve the cell information from cell B3 here, which is the rent, the total rent for the year. So cell B3. So what we do is So cell B3 is also in the summary worksheet. So we specify the worksheet name. So here, so far we've specified the workbook name. Now the worksheet name we want to go into, and then we put a semicolon, and then we make a reference to the cell that we want to make a reference to. So cell B3, okay? And then we close the parentheses here and click enter, which is now displaying the exact same results as this cell here. And the great thing about it is because we've made a reference to that cell in the other workbook, if we simply update this workbook, it will also update the other workbook for us. So you will notice this value also changes. So we've made a reference to the completely different workbook, and once we update this, this one also gets updated as well. So does that make sense so far? Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, great. Guys, if you have any questions, just feel free to put your hands up at any time or just ask. So moving on to using cell ranges in formulas. So in Excel, a group of cells are called ranges. So the cell ranges are either contagious or non-contagious. So you can either define the range, change the size of a range after you define it, or use name ranges in formula. You can use the name box and the name manager to keep track of the name ranges and their cells. You can also paste names commands to create a list of name ranges. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Okay, so when you refer to the same cell over and over again, it might be more convenient to actually give it a name. So for example here, if we go to, say if we select this like a range, say if we are using this range here, okay, so from like B B8 all the way to E14. Okay, so this is some range that we are constantly making use of. So what you can do is you can actually make a you can name that range instead of having to drag it every time. If you go to the formula bar and if you click on where it says under the define names command group, if you click where it says define name, click on define name, and it's going to ask us to define a name for this range. So for example, if we type in scope, okay, and now this range is being given the name scope. So every single time, if you want to make a reference to that range, I can simply just type in scope into my name box here, and it's gonna, if you pay attention, it's gonna highlight that range that I just selected for me straight away. You can access it from down here as well, from the name box. Okay, so instead of it being like this, you can actually give that range a meaningful name, and it will actually change to that cell range every single time you select it. So now let's looking into using our actual range in a formula. So let's use this range here that we have here, so scope, and use it in a formula. Okay, so if we just, for example, select any cell that we want here, say I want to make a sum of that scope range that I just specified. So say when you use the sum formula, so equals sum, parentheses open, and from here, either simply type in the name of the range that you specified previously, or if we go to where it says define names, the command group for that, and here the option that says use in formula, if we select that drop down here, it's going to provide us with the ranges that we specified previously. So if we select scope, now we're going to be able to use this range in our this scope range in our formula. So if we enter that, it's going to enter that range name for us in our formula, and then simply close the parentheses and click enter, and it gives us a sum of all the values in that range. Okay, and yeah, that is it for this lesson as well. So so we went quite through a lot today. It was the basics, but as the weeks go on, like I mentioned previously, we're going to be going into more advanced stuff. So Also, again, literally what I just showed you here, all the demonstrations that I just showed you in terms of, setting a scope, ranges. There's also activities and exercises for you all to do here as well, so you get good practice of it as well. So yeah, we looked into displaying formulas, using cell referencing and external cell referencing, and specifying named ranges. Okay, so I think that is it for today's lesson. Does anyone have any questions? If anything didn't make sense, feel free to ask.
Sasan, I believe that there is also exercises within the materials, right?
Yep. So exactly. So on for all these I just so yeah, there's loads of for every single lesson there'll be exercises for you all to do as well. So which is quite important to do. So please make sure you do them so you don't fall behind as well. As the lessons do progress, it will get more advanced. So ensure that you've got a good understanding of all the topics that we go through.
Okay, guys, please make sure that you do all the exercises in within the that actually exists within the materials. You already have access to the materials. I already uploaded them to the what's called uh, to the Teams channel. Basically, under the class materials, you can find the materials for the teaching materials, which include all the tasks and so on. Also, in terms of the quiz, you can go to the Microsoft Excel quiz file under the activities, and you'll find the PDF in there that has the links to all the quizzes. So today we covered Sasan covered until like lesson 4.
Yep.
There is 4 quizzes so far for you to do. Um, I believe that you can do it basically from now until Saturday, until our next session. Please make sure that you have you do basically the quizzes and you do the exercises inside the materials as well, just to be sure that all of you are on the same level of understanding and knowledge. And also, it will help us to assess the how the delivery is being, and if there is anything that we need to change, anything we need to add, or anything that we need to remove from there. So um, just make sure you do all these tasks, quizzes, answer the question. It's okay, not it's okay, like if you don't answer all of them right, that's okay as well. So it will help us as well to help you um, get full understanding of what exactly the lesson is about, what is missing. If there is anything that's not clear to you enough, so we can explain it to you again and make sure that you understand it fully. Okay,
Yep.
so I believe that would be your assignment or tasks to do until next session, which is on Saturday. Of course, I will be sending you an email with the all the details that I just. So, how did you find today's session?
Yeah, it was
Quite
interesting.
informative.
Yeah, very, very interesting and informative.
I mean, like some of you might be familiar with some of the stuff in there, so
yeah, some of it.
it should be right.
I can't find the quizzes. Sorry, if you just quickly let me know. Is it under the file or?
So let me show if you you can still see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
yeah, if you go under files
Yeah.
and if I just go back, so general class activities,
Activities.
and here where it says the PDF that says MS Excel quizzes, select that. And for this week, for this lesson, we covered up to lesson 4. So quiz 1, quiz 2, quiz 3, and quiz 4 using basic formulas. Okay, so these 4 quizzes we've done covered 4 lessons worth of material. So
Yeah.
those 4 quizzes.
Yeah. Thank you, Sasan. Thank
No
you.
worries.
So every lesson has a quiz,
Yeah.
Like lesson 1 has today we covered 4 lessons. That means
Yeah.
4.
So we have to do 4 quiz. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the quizzes aren't that long. They're very short quizzes. They're only like a
10
couple
questions.
questions. Yeah. Simple simple multiple choice
Okay,
questions, very
brilliant.
quickly.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No worries. And like Nour said as well, the exercises for the on the class material again. So if you go on class material instead of activities,
material,
and then
yeah.
select the folder that says MX Excel materials,
Yeah.
and then whatever lesson that we've done, and then these are all the slides that are going to have all the theory and also all the practice. So for example here, it is lesson 2. If we go to, for example, this exercise here, it's going to give you a step-by-step walkthrough on how to do this certain task, and it also says which folder, which Excel file you have to use. So for example, O2 Fabricum address, okay, or whatever, and you can again go to class material, and you're going to be using these ones here, okay? So you're going to be using these Excel sheets to do those exercises, okay?
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you.
And one more thing, I also uploaded 2 resources that will help you more basically to understand Excel and other stuff in Excel as well. So you can refer to those resources. Also, if you go to resources and you find them under Microsoft Excel's folder, I think I uploaded 2 PDFs in there, and hopefully they will be helpful for all of you. If you guys still have issues accessing the Microsoft Teams, please let me know. Hopefully all the emails being sorted by now and the access to all these stuff by now sorted. If you still have an issue, let me know. What I can do is I can basically just upload them to my GitHub repository, okay?
Can I ask you a quick question, Mohammed? You said resources you uploaded for the Excel. Is it under the resources folder?
Yes. Under the resources folder, you will find
a folder for MS Excel. Thank you.
No worries. So I believe that would be it for today. You are free to go. Thank you for attending today, and yeah, I believe I didn't get a chance to say Happy New Year to all of you. Hope all of you had a great holiday. I don't know, did I say Happy New Year? I really don't remember. So many things going on in my head. But yeah, it's good to have you all back, guys. Good to have you all here again and continue this session and so on. Yeah, Darren, I believe that, I mean, there is a bit of difference, not that much difference, but I think there is a bit difference between Mac or Windows, but mostly it's similar. Is that right, Sasan?
Yep, yeah.
All right, thank you guys, and I'll see you all on Saturday.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi, Mohammed. Sorry.
Hi, yes, hi.
May I just quickly ask a question? Happy New Year, by the way.
Happy New Year.
I have 2 questions. It's about previous assignments.
Yeah.
May I just quickly ask them? First of them is about the parts of Azure fundamentals. So I only found that we need to complete 3 parts. Do we need to finish other